Building Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Alderman Sorrentino.
Here.
Alderman Jacob.
Here.
Alderman Woods.
Here.
Alderman Sismarski.
Here.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Here.
Alderman Eugene Wesley. Here. Alderman Catalano.
Here.
Alderman Messina.
Here. That being here, we have a quorum. Make a motion to approve the minutes from April 25th. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes. Report and recommendation. We are going to do a little switch here. We are going to move item number 3 up, which is insurance, up to number 1, and move number 1 down to 3. So we're going to start approval to draft an ordinance authorizing a special use permit and major site plan review for the Allstate Insurance Agency located at 130 East Irving Park Road.
Make that motion.
Second.
Did you have a presentation or anything you want to show us? Or?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Just briefly, just to kind of get the committee caught up with the CDC application. So the public hearing notice was published on May 3rd, 2019. It was went to CDC May 20th. This is obviously for a special use permit, major site plan review for 2019 CDC 05, Allstate Insurance, proposed to be located at 130 East Irving Park Road. Just a little bit of information on the application, and I think if we can, I don't see that. So it's 130, which is right here along Irving Park Road. It's the reason we're here is because it's a zone TCB, Town Center Business. Obviously, that's the dark red right here. The reason, well, I'll get to that in just one second. The strip mall is 2.17 acres in size, 2 existing buildings, and then the parking spaces for the entire strip mall and overall development is 125, 5 handicap, 112 required, so it does meet that parking requirement. It is designated on the as retail stroke commercial on the future land use plan, and it also achieves goal 4, objective 2 of the comprehensive plan, by keeping Wooddale diverse by managing development and creating a balanced mix of land uses. It's not, hold on one second. Not seem to. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. TCB, which I just highlighted earlier, special use is required. I think the intent was at the time that it was to promote retail and sales tax along Irving Park Road, therefore requiring a special use for uses engaged in finance, insurance, and real estate services. Obviously, this is one of those uses. So just very briefly, to sum up, no physical changes to the building. Special use for the overall PUD, for the overall development, was granted in 1986. So just a summary, it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, consistent with the UDO, meets the special use standards, and it meets the site plan review standards. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cage. Do we have any questions? Could we take a roll call, please?
Alderman Sorrentino.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski.
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Messina.
Yes. Welcome to Wooddale.
That passes. Next, we have approval to draft an ordinance authorizing a special use, planned unit development, and major site plan review for the Oak Brook Elementary School parking lot expansion at 170 South Wooddale Road. That is my motion.
Second.
Do we have any questions? Eileen, do you want to just take a quick roll call, please?
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski?
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Next, approval to draft an ordinance and resolution authorizing annexation, special use, planned unit development, final plat of subdivision, and major site plan review for the redevelopment of the Washington Street located at 640 North Central Avenue, pin 03-10-106-014, -006, -007, -008, -009, -010, -011, -0112, -013, -015, and pins 03-10, -107-001, 002, 003, 004, 005, 006, 007, 008, 009, 010, to be here annexed into the city of Wooddale.
Make that motion.
Second. Ed, did you want to, I know you said you had a presentation for us?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So I have a presentation. I know the applicant's here, and they have a brief presentation. So I think the plan is for me to go ahead, just kind of summarize where we are to date with the application. If there's any specific development-based questions, I know the applicant is here, would be willing to answer those. If it's a code-related question, I will try and answer it either in the presentation or questions afterwards. I think just in summary, Chairman Jacob just read out the request. This is a major development. It's a kind of going back in time. This is an area that the City Council had requested staff look into for potential voluntary annexation, and the good news is that's exactly where we are today. So it's quite a request. It's 9.5 acres. It's annexation, rezoning, special use, planned unit development, final plat of subdivision, and major site plan review. And how we get to that is via the following. So I think most people know where the site is. It's unincorporated DuPage County right now. It's this area right here surrounded by the red box, approximately just over 9.5 acres. Obviously, kind of north-south central, Benares up here, and I'm sure people are familiar with the Public Works facility right here on the corner of Benares and Central. Obviously, to the south, there's a Temco location facility, and further south than that, this is unincorporated DuPage County as well. This was an item that was, there was a public hearing that was held at the CDC on May 20th. In terms of the location, obviously zoning surrounding it, it's predominantly I-1, light industrial. This is obviously the subject site with Washington Street bisecting the site, and residential to the west. I think the council knows that a good chunk of this area is wetlands. We'll get to that and the buffer a little bit later in the presentation, and obviously the Park District and the school district property further to the west. This is what it looks like currently on the plat map. Obviously, 9.59 acres, 20 lots, 10 to the north of the existing Washington Street, 10 to the south. Now, I know some of these are, even though it's a large screen, a little difficult to see. I'm having a few challenges, but bear with me. This is essentially an existing land survey of the property. And I think the key with this is that it shows that there are some residences there right now. There are some vacant lots there right now. So it's a mixture of residences, and it's a mixture of open lots, which I believe some of the residences owned and they maintained as open space. Obviously, this is Washington Street bisecting the middle of the property. This is what is proposed to be the new final plat of subdivision. Obviously, going back, you've got 20 different lots with a street serving it. Moving forward, it's essentially becoming one large lot for light industrial use. This is the proposed site plan. We'll get to the elevations in just a moment. Really, the site plan is orientated to the east-west building. It's approximately 159,000 square feet. Obviously, this is the greenway setback, and greenway buffer, I should say, along Central Avenue. There's 2 access points to the site, one to the south, predominantly for automobiles, obviously parking along the south of the building here, and a parking facility to the west of the building. There is a larger access point and curb cut to the north, predominantly to serve the truck access and truck court to the north side of the building. In terms of stormwater detention, there are 2 facilities on site. One is a pond, stormwater detention pond to the west. Obviously, there's a buffer from the wetland here that has been reviewed and approved by the city consultant engineer. There's also some underground detention under the truck court here. I can come back to this slide if there are any particular questions. Just kind of running through elevations. These would be the truck docks, the north side of the building, obviously the south side of the building, and then this would be the east side elevation of the building, which you would see from Central, and the west elevation of the building. Obviously, a mixture of materials, a mixture of colors, typical in terms of some of the new light industrial buildings that we've seen up north of Thorndale. High-quality materials. I know the applicant can talk about types of users, the height of the building, clear space, and all those exciting details. Landscaping, I would like to point out, because the applicant has exceeded the landscape requirements. I know I'm struggling to see the details of it. I know you have it on your devices, but I think key things to point out, obviously street trees, which are a requirement along Central Avenue, a 20-foot greenway buffer along Central Avenue, substantial landscaping along the south and the north of the property, and then substantial landscaping around the pond. Obviously, parking lot has islands with trees planted within the islands, which is another requirement. And then one thing I would be remiss if I did not mention, that Central Avenue, we have requested the applicant dedicate an additional 7 feet of right-of-way along Central Avenue, which, going back to the plat, has been detailed in there, and obviously that is something that the applicant has agreed to do. What does this mean? The recommended approval from the CDC was that the application was consistent with the UDO, consistent with the comprehensive plan, and the following conditions were suggested at the CDC. Substantial conformance with the staff memo. Obviously, the staff memo pulls out all the details in terms of setbacks, in terms of landscaping, in terms of deviations, and then the other, I do apologize, the other condition prior to the issuance of a building permit, a concrete sidewalk along Central Avenue would be installed and inspected. So along with the green space buffer, the 20 feet along Central Avenue, and I mentioned the applicant is dedicating 7 feet of additional right-of-way. We've seen it with other recent applications that we're looking to connect sidewalks. This is a good example, and that's why we've required it of the applicant to install the sidewalk prior to I'm not sure if it should be prior to the issuance of the permit, but it's prior to the completion of the project, the sidewalk will be in. And with that, that's all I have of a formal presentation. I know the applicant has a presentation. If there are any questions, I know I could certainly try and answer them, or I know the applicant can also.
Did you want to answer questions now or wait till the developer's done?
Whatever the committee's pleasure is.
Okay, we'll let the developers talk. We'll have questions afterwards. Alderman Catalano?
Yeah, my question, Director Cage,
Director Cage?
my question is, do we have enough accessibility around the buildings for emergency vehicles?
Excellent question. So I was a little remiss. The plans were sent, reviewed, and approved by the fire district, the consultant engineer, Public Works. It's been reviewed by all our consultants. The fire district has reviewed it and approved it. Obviously, that's a key element. Each proposed new building has to be accessible on all sides. They have to have the required per code number of hydrants, and they have to have accessibility because we don't want to create a problem. So yes, to answer your question, it has been reviewed and approved, and access is there.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, with that being said, I'd like to turn it over. If you could just state your name and information for our minute taker.
Yeah, Kevin Mahoney, M-O-H-O-N-E-Y, 200 West Madison Street, Chicago. Do I need to be sworn in?
No.
Okay, I was used to the last one. All right,
Well, thank you for being here, and
Yes.
we're looking forward to your presentation.
Great. Well, good evening, everyone. As I said, my name is Kevin Mahoney. I'm a vice president with Transwestern Development Company. Appreciate the opportunity to meet with you guys tonight to discuss what we believe is going to be a pretty transformative redevelopment for this city. Before I get into the project, just a little bit of background on our company, Transwestern Development Company. We are a diversified real estate development company. We develop all property types. We develop throughout the U.S. We are part of the Transwestern family of companies, which is a larger commercial real estate firm, 34 offices throughout the U.S. More specifically, I sit within our logistics group, and so we specialize in the development of warehouse and distribution facilities. We've got extensive experience anywhere from the big box bulk distribution facilities you see off the highway, all the way down to the smaller infill projects like what we're proposing today. In terms of activity, nationally, we've developed a little over 14 million square feet of new industrial product in the last several years. Certainly something that we're very proud of. I think we're more proud of the extensive network of companies that we've had the good fortune of working with. A few of those we've got listed up on that slide here. I apologize, some of this is a repeat of what Ed has already gone over, but as he had noted in the staff memo, the property is roughly 9.6 acres. It's 20 residential parcels. All these parcels are served by private well and septic. As Ed had noted, this is unincorporated DuPage County land, so it's not within the city's jurisdiction at present. But it is surrounded by existing Wooddale Industrial on the northeast and south sides. We've worked diligently over the last year or so to come to an agreement with all these homeowners, and we did successfully close on all these properties at the end of February. In its current state, these properties and this aggregate of a property provides limited economic benefits to the city, given it's not in the city's jurisdiction. So what we're proposing is the voluntary annexation of this property into Wooddale for the city's benefit, and it's our plan to enhance this site in a manner that is consistent with the city's future land use plan. So with any development that we pursue, it's always important to view the opportunity within the context of current market conditions. And the reality of today's industrial market is it's as strong as it's historically ever been. That's both nationally, but especially here in Chicago. So in Chicago, you've got vacancy that is slightly above 6%. It's the lowest it's been in almost 20 years. O'Hare is even a stronger submarket. you've got vacancy below 3.5%. It's the lowest vacancy of all the submarkets in the greater Chicago area. So what we're proposing today is really, it's a project designed to accommodate this growing demand that we're seeing for modern distribution facilities. And really what we want to focus on is that small to mid-size user. When we look at O'Hare, that's what we look at as the core O'Hare market and tenant, is that small to mid-size user. And unfortunately, it's a segment of the market that is perpetually underserved. You've got incredible land constraints, and that's especially true here in the city of Wooddale. If you look at the city of Wooddale's industrial vacancy as of the first quarter of this year, I don't think the second quarter numbers have come out yet, but as of the first quarter of this year, the industrial vacancy is less than 0.5%, 0.49%. It's really an incredible number. It's by far the lowest vacancy of all the municipalities that comprise the O'Hare submarket. I think it's indicative of the incredible demand. People want to be here, but there's a subsequent lack of available space. I think another way to look at that, and probably a better way to look at that, is if you're a company and you're either located here and you want to expand, or you want to relocate to Wooddale, you quite virtually have no options. And so it is our hope that this project will help fill that void. I'm not going to spend much time on this because Ed obviously already covered it, but obviously we want to be mindful of the future land use plans of you guys. So as noted in the staff memo, future land use plan for this site is designated industrial business park. The project that we're proposing, we're confident that it is consistent with that designation. And we also think it's consistent with the type of redevelopment that's occurring in other industrial parts of this city. So moving on to the project itself, as further outlined in the detailed plans that accompanied our submittal, the property can accommodate the construction of a new 159,000 square foot light industrial facility. Here's a site plan of that, a little cleaner than I think the civil version that Ed had up. But as you can see, the building, it's a very efficient design. It's designed to accommodate multiple tenants. Again, as we talked about, that small to mid-size tenant. It's very efficient the way it lays out. You've got the truck docks and the truck court to the north. There's 38 dock doors, 2 drive-in doors. And then the south of the building, that's where you have your future office and then your auto park for future employees. As Ed has mentioned, the project is going to feature extensive landscaping throughout the site. We're also going to be constructing, as Ed noted, the pedestrian sidewalk along Central to connect those adjacent properties. But we think the real focus of this building will be the high-image office storefront on the east side of the building, fronting Central. And that's going to be supplemented by that 20-foot landscaping buffer. It's really going to have great curb appeal. In terms of timing, subject to city approvals, we hope to commence demolition of the existing residential properties next month. We're looking at about 7 months of total construction time for the new building, targeting substantial completion of that building in January of 2020. In the interim period, as we're going through this approval process, we are working with Ed as well as fire and police to provide access to these vacant homes for training activities. Really a phenomenal opportunity for these groups to, again, further enhance their ability to provide public safety here in Wooddale. And we think it's just one of the many benefits of this project. So here's a elevation. You can get a better sense for the design. And from the design perspective, we've tried to be mindful of trends that we see in our industry. And one of those is certainly the growing consolidation of office and warehouse space. Users, companies are trying to find more efficient ways to utilize their real estate. And as a result, what you're seeing is there's a focus on higher image buildings. These buildings are now becoming a tool to both attract and retain employees. They're very different than they used to be. And so when we designed this project, we kept that in mind in terms of using high quality materials. So precast concrete, steel, glass, as I mentioned, extensive landscaping throughout the 20-foot landscape buffer. Overall, this is going to be a really desirable building, not only from the aesthetics, but also just the location here in Wooddale. So we're confident it's going to further strengthen Wooddale's reputation as a premier location for light industrial. And ultimately, it's going to create opportunities for Wooddale residents to work here in the city. The last thing I want to touch on, with any development we pursue, we also want to be mindful of the impact that this development has on neighboring properties. With that in mind, we designed the project to provide efficient mobility, efficient circulation for both pedestrians and auto, both on-site and off-site. So on-site, we're providing an on-site pedestrian circulation network for future tenants in the building. As I mentioned, the pedestrian sidewalk along Central Avenue to provide better connectivity with the adjacent properties. From a traffic perspective, as I mentioned earlier, the building is very efficiently laid out. You've got good separation of your truck and auto traffic. So again, the truck traffic on the north side of the building, auto traffic on the south. In terms of the 2 points of ingress and egress along Central Avenue, we've tried to align those as much as we can with the properties across the street, again, to minimize any sort of impact or disruption to those properties. We're also mindful of the sensitivity to truck traffic in the area. And so what we're doing is we're being proactive with some of the traffic signage that we're going to put specifically in the truck court, essentially designating that only northbound or left turns will be allowed out of the site as you enter onto Central Avenue. Overall, we expect the project to have a very limited impact on the surrounding roadway network. We think that conclusion has been supported by the traffic impact study that we had submitted. The primary conclusion from that study was that the development will generate a very low volume of traffic during peak hours and ultimately will not have a significant impact on area roadways. So in closing, I'd just like to reiterate, again, our excitement, our commitment to this project. Kindly ask for your support of our annexation and rezone of this property. We're confident this is a project that is consistent with each of the goals and many of the objectives within the comprehensive plan. It's a project that will further economic development through what we believe is a value-add annexation opportunity that will have limited impact on the public services required. And it's a significant investment in this community. It's an investment that we're really proud to make in this community, and we're confident that a successful project will have lasting benefits for not only the city, but the city's residents. And with that, thank you again for your time. We look forward to working in partnership with the city on this project.
Thank you very much. It was a great presentation, and we look forward to having you here in the city. I open it to questions. Alderman Messina.
Yeah, so you talked a little bit, or very briefly, about on-site pedestrian circulation.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, go back to. Yes, you can't quite see that here, I don't think, but it's basically a kind of a circulation sidewalk network around the building. I think, Ed, you can confirm I think it's a city requirement, but when you have a building that has a multi-tenant situation, certainly moving people around the building, having a sidewalk is certainly advantageous.
Answered one of my concerns. Great, thanks.
I have one question. Do you
Yeah.
already have tenants in mind, or are you thinking this would be a one-tenant building, or you think
We
this might
would
be?
love for it to be one-tenant building. So out of respect for this process, we haven't started marketing the building.
Okay.
But once we have approvals in place, we will start a full marketing process. And as I said, this is probably the most desirable submarket within Chicago. There's virtually no space, as you saw, less than 0.5% vacancy. So we're incredibly confident that we'll get a good activity on this.
Okay. What kind of tenancy are you expecting? A few tenants in there, realistically?
I would say, this building could probably demise to 2 or 3 tenants. Realistically, I would think, 2 tenants is probably a good fit. Obviously, we'd love to get a single tenant, but we do have flexibility if we want to, again, chop up the space for smaller to mid-sized users.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Roy Wesley.
How many dock doors are there?
38.
So you said all the traffic's going to go northbound,
Truck traffic, yes.
so there won't be any southbound traffic?
We can't control what truckers do, but certainly we can instruct them that they should only be going north on Central. So we will certainly do our best, and that's why we're proactive with the signage that we're going to put in the truck court to let them know. And naturally, you would hope that they want to go north anyways.
Okay, one of the variances is about parking. I guess the question's for Mr. Cage. What is the code for parking and
Mr. Cage, could,
Yes, so there's, there's two parts to the parking question. There's the UDO requirements, and there's the overlay requirements. So this was one of the issues we covered fairly extensively at CDC. The good news is that the site meets the UDO requirements. I'm pretty sure the committee knows that that's not something that we vary. It's not a allowed variance. So I know that the site plan does exceed the parking requirements for the UDO. Interestingly, the Thorndale corridor has a higher ratio of parking requirements simply because it has a reduced number of categories that are parked. So it doesn't call out this specific use, therefore the parking requirements are substantially higher. Where the parking for this use falls in is it meets the UDO, it doesn't meet the Thorndale overlay. The reason it doesn't meet the Thorndale overlay is because those parking requirements, in my opinion, are overly restrictive. And just to give you a sense of the difference between the two parking requirements, the Thorndale overlay parking requirement requires double the amount of parking that the UDO requires.
Mr. Wesley,
I
if
have
you want
more
to continue.
questions here. How many parking spaces are required for this, and how much are they putting in
Mr. Cage?
by code?
Actually, so the parking they're proposing is 144 stalls, which exceeds the code, which I don't have the number right in front of me, but it does exceed the code for the UDO. It does not meet the requirements of the Thorndale corridor, which is, I believe it's in the 240s to 250 parking spaces. So this is an issue that has come up before. Thorndale corridor is an issue that we have with other property owners, with other buildings. And it's something that, from a city standpoint, this is just my opinion, this is something that we're going to need to review, because that was done back in, the Thorndale corridor overlay was implemented in 2010, or 2009, 2010. Obviously, the market is a lot different in the last 10 years. That plan is somewhat dated, and at some point, that's something we're going to have to revisit.
Yeah, my question.
Go ahead.
He's asked more questions than the number of meetings he's been here all year.
Excuse me.
Okay, guys.
Are we done with them?
I already said Alderman, or Wesley, asked your question.
Mr. Cage, at the CDC, you mentioned that there was a question about the vacating Washington Street. You said the city did not know anything about it, correct?
Mr. Cage?
Well, currently the property is in unincorporated DuPage County, so it's not a current city street. I believe it's a township street. As part of the annexation, that's part of the documents. If the committee approves, that would go to city council. That's something that would be reviewed by the city attorney.
Okay, but my question basically was said that you didn't know anything about, the city didn't have any knowledge of vacating Washington Street.
Mr. Cage?
I don't think that's a fair representation of what I said. I said that's my recollection of the meeting is that it's not a city street. So we don't keep records of streets that aren't city streets. So I'm not an engineer. I don't have an understanding of what the state of that street is. If it was a city street, we would have records on it. We would have construction documents on it. It's in unincorporated DuPage County. It's maintained by the township. So if and when this property is annexed into the city, then it would become a city street. However, the proposed plan, the existing street in DuPage, unincorporated DuPage County that serves 20 lots that are now, that serves the residents that used to live there. The applicant has purchased the property, nobody lives there. The street will go away essentially because there's no one to serve.
So,
Okay, I think, again, Alderman Cage, or I'm sorry, Director Cage answered the question. He does not work for unincorporated DuPage County, he works for the city of Wooddale.
okay,
Alderman Messina?
so you're not gonna let me finish on my questions?
Nope, I'm going to Alderman Messina. You just asked about 6 questions. There's other council members up here.
You're coming-
So you mentioned 2 drive-in doors
Yeah.
in your plan. Could you give me a better, or us a better idea of kind of the use with something like that, like a drive-in?
Yeah, so it's more so for the smaller box trucks. That's typical in most industrial buildings. You'll see a small handful. It's more so important for the smaller users that don't necessarily use the semi-trucks. They do more kind of smaller box trucks. So you'll typically see those on the ends of the building. So here on the opposite side.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Now let me ask my question.
Yes, you could go.
So this street on Washington Street, if we vacate it, we're just gonna give it to them, even though
Okay.
those
That-
streets belong to the, hang on, can I, it's the taxpayer's question.
Well, this is, and I'm the chairman of this, and this is, we don't have a city attorney, our attorney is not here. You could ask this question next week at the city council meeting. And Ed Cage
So
does
we're-
not
so we're
work
gonna-
for
so I'm
unincorporated
gonna
DuPage
vote on
County.
Giving a street away tonight at taxpayer's cost, of
Well-
whatever, 1 point, whatever cost it may be, that street.
Well, again, it's unincorporated. It's not even part of the city of Wooddale, so the whole point that we're bringing it into Wooddale, I mean, I think I'm pretty excited about it. I think most of the council members are pretty excited about it, so.
No, well, just
Like
wanna
I
know
said,
about
you
the
could,
street.
you could ask the question with the attorney next week.
Fine.
Alderman Woods?
Just one thing, so if those houses all existed and we annexed the property in with the houses, the street would come in and become part of Wooddale. There would be no cost, the county wouldn't charge us. Right, the fact that they're wiping out the houses, everything's staying the same as if nothing, no building was being developed there. And that's just a general process that goes on throughout the county. The taxpayers of Wooddale are not paying anything. Actually, the fact that they don't have to take care of the road saves them money. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no more questions, let's have a roll call, please.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski?
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
Abstain.
Alderman Eugene Wesley? Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
That passes. Thank you again very much for your presentation. We're welcoming you to Wooddale and looking forward to this project to get off the ground. Items to be considered at future meetings. Okay. There being none, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to call to order the Public Health, Safety, Judiciary, and Ethics Committee. Minute taker, please note, all the quorum is the same. I'd like to get an approval of the minutes of the meeting of April 11th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Second item here are the report and recommendation. We have 3 items that we're going to discuss this evening. We'll go in order 1, 2, 3. The chief will jump in and discuss it in length, answer any questions you may have. We're going to look at the approval of a resolution authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental police service assistance agreement to join the DuPage Metropolitan Emergency Response and Investigation Team. Ms. Merritt. Chief, would you please enlighten us?
Sure, thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
So as most of council is probably aware, we're a part of several multi-jurisdictional task forces. We're part of a SWAT team,
under Fiat, a canine response group, some accident investigation teams, evidence recovery teams, and also that's under Fiat. And we're also part of the Major Crimes Task Force, which handles investigation of homicides or serious, the more serious incidents and officer-involved shootings. So as a county, though, the DuPage Chiefs Executive Board a couple years ago identified a goal of many agencies are a part of different types of these teams. So some were a part of Major Crimes Task Force and some were a part of Fiat. And you had a SWAT team that fell under Fiat, one under DuPage County, and then some towns belonged to NIPUS as a part of their SWAT team. So based on the heels of several successful countywide projects, the radio system, the Narcan program, the incident management assistance team, we set a goal to merge those all together under one organizational structure. So that's been going on for the last couple of years, discussions, and what has risen out of that is a mutual aid response team, basically, that's going to encompass SWAT, crisis negotiations for hostage situations or crisis situations, canine response, major crash reconstruction, the incident management assistance team, which is the basically the handling of major incidents with executive level supervisors coming in from other agencies to assist with a large incident, planned events response, which would be special events or pre-planned events, crime scene investigation for our more major crimes, computer forensics, and we're using a lot more of that lately with cell phones, computers, you name it. The computer forensic is a big part of some of the investigations we do, and then the major crimes. So we currently, in the task forces we're in, it costs us a total of $4,000 a year in membership dues. The new merit team, it has the exact same level of dues. So there's no increase in dues. What we'll get out of it is a countywide structure and a countywide set of teams that's going to encompass about 275 to 300 officers throughout the county. Almost every town is a member of one of these teams, but this will bring us all together under one team. And in essence, Fiat and major crimes, the minute this goes into effect, they're dissolving anyways. So I anticipate 100% participation across the county, and everyone's being asked to try and have this ready for rollout on July 1st. And I know there's already many agencies that earlier this month have passed this through, and I'm hoping we can be a part of the new team.
Any questions? Well, then, I'll make the motion to approve. Alderman Eugene Wesley.
Who's going to be the leader of this? Is it DuPage County who's going to lead it, or who's going to be in charge?
Chief?
So there's a whole executive board, and there's a, which is made up of, there'll be a representative from the DuPage Chiefs, the Sheriff's Office, the State's Attorney's Office, and then there's an annual nominating committee that forms up people with the right specialties. So the SWAT commander is a former SWAT leader, and actually it's been very nice is the teams, as they're looking to meld, there has been no disputes or conflict as to who should be the commanders. There was a formal interview process set up, and yeah.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions? Alderman Messina?
Aside from the intergovernmental cooperation, I imagine it's a good opportunity for career development as they're taking on different roles.
Chief?
It is. You know, that's one of the things that we find as a smaller agency is our people have an opportunity for a lot of specialty involvement. And I think part of the reason that even as a smaller agency, we're able to retain people because they have an opportunity to participate in things beyond our borders. You know, sometimes we need them to come into our borders for assistance, but we also lend our people to assist in other towns. So it really is career opportunity, and DuPage County really does a lot of things right as far as cooperating together and consolidating together.
Alderman Jacob?
Did you say the Fiat, that's dissolving, or that's going away then,
Chief.
and this is kind of taking its spot?
Yes, this will take the spot. And the components that were a part of Fiat, and actually the Fiat budget, the major crimes budget, and the incident management assistance team budget they'll all be melded under one 501c6, I believe it is, they're filing for.
Follow up, Alderman Jacob?
Yeah, and then I know some of our officers are part of Fiat now. Will they continue to be part of this, or is this a whole new selection process for
Chief.
people?
No, they will continue in their current roles.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, I think anytime we can improve and give assurances to our public, our residents specifically, we're having more continuity, more resources, more people available to keep us safe. So I'll make the motion to approve this.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
And that passes. Item 2 on the report and recommendation, I'll read it, and then you could take it, please, Chief.
Sure.
There's a request to change from Class P to Class A liquor license. Chief.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So the mayor, a couple weeks ago, read a letter from Frank's Fresh Market. They had a desire to expand their menu items at the restaurant and allow for the consumption of alcohol while people are consuming those and/or shopping at the store. So in essence, this would be, in order to grant that request, it would simply be a matter of reducing the Class P licenses by one, which just allows for the package sales, and increasing the Class A licenses by one, which allows for consumption only on the premises where sold, and the sale of packaged liquor for consumption off premises. I did talk to a couple agencies that have these types of stores, Bloomingdale, Westmont, and Carroll Stream, and they have had no problems with any of their issues. I did speak to the owner last week and just verified what he was looking for, and the Class A is probably the best fit for what he's looking for.
Any questions? Alderman Messina?
As I think about what they're looking to do, it kind of coincides with what we see with a lot of the new markets that are coming up. I won't name them, but yeah, you can legitimately go in and have a wine tasting or a glass of wine. So I'm all for it.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion. I'll make a
Second.
motion.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
Does a fee on the structure change on a liquor license, or does it stay the
Chief?
same?
No, they're exactly the same. $5,000 initial and $1,500 renewal.
Make sure it stays the same, I don't want
It is.
to increase.
Any other questions? We've got a motion and a second. No other questions? Please call the roll.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Catalano?
I have to recuse myself.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
And that passes. Item 3 is a request for amendment to a liquor license code regarding the sampling of product on premises. Chief, would you please elaborate?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. This is another one that was given to the mayor as liquor commissioner, and their request is to have the ability to offer sampling of wine at the Chicago Wine Company. It's basically an internet distribution company that has been in Wooddale for, I believe, over 10 years now. We have not had any issues up there. Really what, in talking to the owner prior to the meeting last week about what his real goal is, in order to have access to the wines that are sold only in restaurants, his license has to actually state something that on premises consumption is allowed. But what he's really looking for only is the ability for wine tasting or sampling, if they would offer that, not a wine bar or anything like that. So in Illinois statute, there is a provision that with all package sales, you can offer up to 3 samples per person according to statute. It's a small amount of spirits, I think it's a quarter ounce, an ounce of wine, or 2 ounces of beer. So someone could come in and theoretically, already under state law, sample 3 different 1-ounce wines at this location. What he's looking for is for the distributors to be able to sell him the wine that can only be sold in places that allow for on-premises consumption, is a change to the wording of the liquor license that would essentially just reference Illinois state statute that, and are allowed to sample according to Illinois state statute. So I think I put some of the wording in there that's covered under the state statute. And then obviously, if there was any changes to the state law down the road, those would automatically go into effect with the new license. So rather than change his license or turn it into a Class A that would allow for unlimited consumption on thing, we would just incorporate the language of the Illinois law regarding sampling right into our current liquor license code, which is already permitted.
Good decision.
Second.
Pardon me, Alderman Wesley?
I made a motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions? All right, Eileen, please do a roll call on this.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
Alderman Sosmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Chief. Items to be considered at future meetings. We have a squad purchase on July 11th. Police Department code revisions, July 11th. And this should be interesting. Prior to the adjournment, I'd like to make a motion to censor Alderman Roy Wesley. Need a second?
We're
Can't do it here?
we're not doing that here.
Not here.
Right.
All right, the thoughts out there.
All right.
We'll get to it when we can.
Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate
then, there being no other questions? Anybody want to make a motion for this adjournment, or should we just keep it going?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Good job, Chief, with that,
You would've got
3
yourself.
reports there.
I'd like to call the order of the Public Works Committee. I'm going to please take note that the same council members are present. And I need a motion to approve the minutes of May 9th, 2019, Public Works Committee meetings. Any changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is report and recommendation. Approval of an agreement between the City of Wooddale and Christopher B. Burke Engineering for professional engineer services at Rickers Station and tank maintenance in not in the amount to exceed $60,443. That is my motion.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? No questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
Alderman Sosmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next is approval of an agreement between the City of Wooddale and Robinson Engineer for professional services for community rating system administration in the amount not to exceed $15,865. That is my motion.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
Alderman Sosmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Motion carries. And last is approval of an agreement between the City of Wooddale and Robinson Engineering for the fiscal year ending 2020, management of the industrial pretreatment program, permit required nutrient study, and other design work not in an amount to exceed $202,300. That is my motion.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? No questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
Alderman Sosmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley? Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Motion carries. And next, items to be considered for future meetings. We have a rear yard drainage for nonprofit. That's July 11th. And I'd like to see some procedural changes on that. Remember we talked about that, Alan? Maybe we can come up with some of those changes.
Yes, sir.
Any other items to consider? Nope. No?
I was just wondering what changes we were talking about.
Just some,
Go ahead.
just reviewing the program in general and maybe making some minor procedural changes.
Any other questions? Alderman Jacob?
This is a question for City Manager Murmas.
Go ahead.
For changing, adding people, additional people like streetscape and things and certain committees and adding some new committees, where would that be done at? Or
The mayor has to, the mayor has the power to do that with the advice and consent of the council pending what type of committee you're talking about, so that's handled at a council meeting usually, not committee. So you'd have to mention that to him.
Okay, so that's something I have to discuss with the mayor.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Messina, did you have a question? Go ahead.
Which committee would that be mentioned under? I know we've asked
It's
this
just,
before, so I
it's-
just, can we get clear direction?
Mayor's report.
And the mayor's report? Okay, thank you.
Any other items to consider? No? Then I move for adjournment. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.